Hondo, and welcome to Raise a Glass. Today, we're going to be talking about B movies that have had more than a B influence on our lives.
Hondo.
Hondo, yes. And buen suerte.
Don't worry if you don't get that now. By the end of the episode, you'll feel like you're in on the inside joke and wanting to know more.
Hopefully.
True.
What's in your glass today?
Yeah. So knowing that today we're talking about movies that people often only watch seasonally, not maybe your go-to piece, I decided to drink a seasonal beverage. So as fall is beginning tomorrow, I think, right? It's beginning first day of fall, something like that. I am drinking apple cider.
Oh, nice.
The taste of fall. The taste of autumn. How about you, Hunter?
I have a Thimble Island Brewery IPA that I have already poured, so I forgot the name of it, but it's all right. It's a little fruity, which I'm not a huge fan of the fruity IPAs, but I guess it's more citrus than fruity, so it's still pretty good. But
yeah,
I have it in my nice beer mug.
Nice. Is that a Stein?
Oh no, it's just believe it or not, it was actually a mug o' nuts. It had peanuts in it. But it's the only glass that I have that can fit a full pint.
Okay, I lost a little bit of respect for you that you just said mug o' nuts.
Yeah, I know.
That's a weird thing to say. I'm sure it's accurate to what it was, but that's
what was on the cap of the mug. Don't ask. I don't know. I just found it.
Great. Well, before we dive into the movies we talked about, let's talk about what we're raising a glass and or pouring one out for this week. Hunter, last week you didn't share any, so I think that grants you the opportunity to share two, should you like.
Oh, yes. I do have two things to pour out for. One is Saga of my dishwasher, which has concluded finally. It started leaking, right? And so we opened it up. I looked at the gaskets, and in the front and the door gaskets, and they were totally disintegrated.
Oh my goodness!
So I replaced
they become
those.
a gaseous state.
Yeah, they were just
gaskets were gassy.
Grosser than that, they were like liquid.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, but I replaced them, and then it was still leaking, and it was leaking so much that it was running down into the basement and making puddles on the floor of the basement. That's how much it was leaking.
Is that considered fixing?
No. I had to. I took the dishwasher out, and it has this like perfectly cut thing under the counter. It's cut to size, but there's a very small margin of error, so it was kind of hard to get out. And it turned out that there was a pump underneath. It was
oh man,
not the intake pump, but it was the pump that it used when it actually did the washing. And it was a rubber gasket that had just decayed, and it was just spurting water out. And tried to fix it with some goop. That didn't work. Held for like 5 minutes.
Just long enough to give you hope.
Yeah, and you couldn't replace just the gasket. You had to order the whole pump. The gasket was like built into the pump, so you had to. It which wasn't cheap. I mean, it was a lot cheaper than getting a new dishwasher, and but replaced that, and now it's working. And then I got it back in. I thought I was
Okay.
done, but it wasn't closing. The dishwasher
All
was
right.
not closing all the way because the under the counter was cut so tightly that the door was catching on the side. So last night I was uh, yelling at the dishwasher and getting it perfectly in
Hondo.
place so that the door could uh, close and could go back to a life of ease.
Okay.
So pour one out for my dishwasher, and I think even more tragic than that, I'm pouring one out for my finger because
Oh no, what
I
happened?
was
What? Oh.
yeah.
I saw your finger from when it was like, what happened to the tip of it? And then
Yeah, I was skinning a butternut squash, making some butternut squash soup with a brand new peeler,
of course, yep.
and it was so sharp that I didn't even feel it when it cut on my finger, and it cut a pretty good slice into my finger.
Oh my
And I can't really play guitar with that finger. It's my pointer finger.
Well, that is a
So
great lead in to our conversation today.
yes, that is something that would happen to El Mariachi.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is our first
Oh my
movie.
goodness. Yeah.
Or yeah, are we doing that one first, or are we doing?
Why not? You just led us right into it. Let's dive into El Mariachi. Sorry, that was probably pronounced completely incorrectly. I tried though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really a pretty beginning Spanish speaker, but I like to think that my pronunciation is decent. I practice that, but El Mariachi is a movie that was sent to me by a friend, recommended by a friend. Um, he called it a hunter movie, and
Was he right?
it was pretty accurate. Yeah, um, it is about a mariachi who comes to town. He is sin suerte, sin dinero, no luck, no money,
Hmm.
and nada cambia. Nothing changes. But he comes to this town hoping for a change, and come to find out that this town has a lot of has a cartel rivalry going on.
Not a great moment to time to come to that
Yeah,
town.
really not. And especially because one of the guys who's the head of one of the cartels is getting revenge on this other guy, and he carries around a guitar case full of weapons, and he comes in and he puts a hit on his enemies men with this guitar case full of guns.
It's not a guitar. It's a guitar case full of weapons he uses on his victims. That is a direct quote from this movie.
Yes.
But there is no guitar. It's a guitar case full of weapons. Yet another direct quote from this movie.
Mm-hmm. El Estuche case. Directed by Robert Rodriguez. Went on to have, apparently he's like really good friends with Quentin Tarantino. I was reading about it, but
okay, I can see that. This movie's pretty gratuitous in its B quality.
yeah, I mean it's an action movie. It's on
definitely true.
he made it on a $7,000 budget, but it is an action movie.
Why did you choose this one to share?
Well, you wanted to do your movie, which is also fairly low budget, as far as I know.
Yes.
And I thought of this one because it is also very low budget, and it also, it's not just kind of like a fun action movie. It's a revenge story. Um, the plot, it's a case of mistaken identity where they think that this Mariachi is cartel leader, and he gets mixed up in all of it, and it's really actually almost a tragedy.
Yeah.
But
Is that what makes it a Hunter movie?
that I think there's a correlation between uh, sad movies and movies that are hunter movies.
Okay. Well, this movie is also very funny. It's not just sad. It's
It
a
is,
very
yeah,
funny movie.
yeah. Um, I like the hotel manager. Yeah, he like,
sorry, I can't get your money out. The thing's locked. Yeah,
yeah.
he's that guy. That guy is pretty great. I appreciated him he was definitely a secondary character or really tertiary character that shined bright.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious what you thought of the movie, though. I wasn't sure if you would like it or not.
Yeah, I did quite enjoy this movie. I love absurd movies. Movies where you just in the movie world, like in the world of that particular movie, where you can like almost tie the connections to each other, but not quite. And like they're absurd, but like if from an outside perspective is just pure absurdity the whole time. I think that's what this movie is in many ways. But like there's enough of a cohesiveness to it that it's not something you can just disregard.
Yeah.
And so while I found myself laughing a lot at the premise of it and at the plot of it, and I did my best attempt to live tweet or live telegram my thoughts on it, many of which were just direct quotes to you, Hunter, while watching it.
I enjoyed
I
that.
also, oh, good. I got that from you, and so I figured kind of throwing it back would be good. I quite enjoyed watching this. I would watch it again. I wouldn't watch it again tomorrow, but maybe next month. Sometimes when I really, really like a movie, I'll watch it twice in a row. I wouldn't watch this movie twice in a row. Like I did that with Hotel Transylvania. Hotel Transylvania to me was a twice in the row type movie. Lord of the Rings. I could watch those twice in a row. Might need a couple bathroom breaks, but I can do it.
Extended?
Yeah. Extended bathroom breaks too. That's a joke.
Yeah.
I see why you like it.
Yeah.
Got to be honest. I thought it was very funny. I thought it was very. I didn't know where it was going. There were a few things that happened in this movie that I was like, oh. Like especially the way it ended. Like, I did not. Really, that was the only time that really surprised me. I did not expect the ending of this movie, and we've clearly realized by now, and as have you likely, that we are not a spoiler-free podcast.
No.
There's this movie will be spoiled shortly.
Yeah.
And how are you supposed to dislike a movie that starts with a turtle and ends with the same turtle?
Right.
And ends with a deep, it's all about statements around this turtle. It's
what's amazing is the turtle was improvised. It wasn't planned. Just kind of walked in front of the shot.
I don't know how I feel about you knowing that information.
I just looked it up on Wikipedia.
That's how you figure these things out. I was trying to figure out. Okay.
Yeah.
Please continue.
The El Mariachi Wikipedia is a very good read because it talks about how he saved money. because he had a $7,000 budget, almost half of which he raised by participating in experimental clinical drug testing while living in Austin, Texas.
That is so funny.
Yeah, and the opening scene is in the actual local Acuna jail in the town. The warden and the male guard are the real life warden and guard. And that's kind of a theme for a lot of the locations that they shot at. He didn't have a film crew. All of the actors doubled as a film crew.
Okay.
He also did not use a dolly and instead held the camera while being pushed around in a wheelchair.
Now, if you're wondering about the budget of this film and didn't know that it was $7,000, when you heard that, that should help you figure that out.
Yeah. Bloopers were kept in. So they're just like little continuity things, but they were kept in to save film. He also spared expense by shooting on 16 millimeter film as opposed to 35 millimeter.
If I knew anything about film, I'm sure that I'd find that interesting.
Yeah. And the squibs in the shootout scenes, which make it look like people are getting shot with blood, were actually condoms filled with fake blood and fixed over weightlifting belts.
How'd they pop them?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
Okay. That is information that I now know.
Yeah. There's some more things. But I'll put a link in there because it's amazing how he's able to save money.
Yeah, that's a much better Wikipedia page than the one for the movie that we'll be talking about that I brought in. None of that type of information exists in that one. Hunter, I just want to read a few of my favorite quotes from this movie.
Okay.
And they'll be somewhat chronological, so they might give you what is this? Mariachi Day? That was from the first bartender he bumps into. When the second guy, the bad guy with the guitar case full of guns, shows up. And then the guy goes and kills pretty much everybody. Here's one of the deepest statements I could find in the entire movie. Technology has crushed us, robbed us of our culture, turning us into machines. And it's said with that type of voice, and I was like, oh man, like you could ruminate on that,
Yeah.
And then the next line, he's saying this as he's walking into another bar, like the next line, without any break, is, she was the most beautiful thing I'd seen all day, next to the turtle, of course. There is no break between those things. Deep philosophical thought, and then he's looking up this new bartender.
Domino.
I already shared my favorite part about it. It's a guitar. It's not a guitar. It's a guitar case full of the weapons he uses on his victims. Oh, the bad guy's name. Do you remember what the bad guy's name in this movie is?
Moko.
Sorry, the other guy with the guitar case.
Oh, Asu?
Yes. And at one point, because he wears all black, at one point, the main character asks somebody, if his name is Azul, why doesn't he wear blue? So good.
Yeah.
Those are just some of my favorite quotes. Mm-hmm. This movie just has a lot of those types of things that you're just like, I'm going to lean into it because of the type of movie that I know it is. And I think this movie doesn't try to be something it's not.
No.
It's a Western. It's like a Western tragedy. It's also it's different than that. I gotta be honest. I've not seen a lot of Mexican films. And I don't know if this is typical of that like type of Western, or if this is something different altogether, or if it's trying to make a joke off something. I don't know. Either way, though, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have watched a fair amount of American Westerns, mostly Clint Eastwood movies. But I don't really know enough about Mexican film to say. It says it's a neo-Western film.
Okay.
And it is American. Robert Rodriguez is American,
Okay.
so
That's good to know.
it's a Spanish language film, but it's technically American.
But it's also filmed in Mexico, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Dude, there are a few other points in this movie where it made me think about other movies. At some point I want us to discuss the Godfather movies.
Okay.
Because it's a 50th anniversary of The Godfather. I have a pretty, as far as stories and storytellers that shape you, that shaped us. That's a kind of a big story that's shaped some of my life. There is a one of the most famous lines in the Godfather movie was a made up, like was off the cuff. It was after a hit, and one of the characters says, "Leave the gun, take the cannoli." And it's just one of those signs that, like, those lines that like it just is The Godfather. Right. There was a leave the gun, take the cannoli moment in this movie. So this mariachi is like going to his hotel room, walks past the hotel owner, who had just been told that somebody had killed 4 or 6 of the henchmen of this cartel boss, and the only information they had to go on was the person's wearing all black and has a guitar case. So then this mariachi walks in, and wearing all black, has a guitar case, gets to his room. Obviously, there's some ridiculous moments before that and in between, and then, and we've got to talk about these dreams in a second. But before we get there, has these weird dreams, and then he starts like getting shot at, in what ends up being like a really funny like like one of those funny like running away like cases, except there's a lot of guns. And he starts by like running away and being very impressive in the way he's running away and like jumping into trucks. And then all of a sudden, like, he's just killing people with guns. Like, he like finds a way into the guns and kills 4 people. One of which I think he kills with his guitar case. I didn't really understand that one. Like, he just shoots him and then he drops the gun, leaves the gun, and takes his guitar. Leave the gun, take the guitar, take the cannoli. And that kind of, that scene changes the whole feel of this movie from one that's primarily about music, like, or going to be like about like his like success story, to one that's like, oh, there's something darker going on.
Yeah, especially with the dreams.
Explain those to me. I didn't understand. So there's like these like 4 or 5 dreams throughout this thing, where there's this kid bouncing a basketball. Like, what is up with these dreams?
I don't know specifically. As what I can gather, I think it kind of, because the music during the dreams is very ominous and menacing. And there's the boy like walking through the door in this like destroyed building. But there's also another dream where that foreshadows the spoiler, the death of his, but you could probably guess because we said it's a tragedy, the death of his love interest. He sees her covered with blood. And I think like that turning point you're talking about where he starts killing them, he kills 4 guys and then, well, he has this dream before that, and he keeps having these really menacing dreams. Turns it into a tragedy. And
Mm-hmm.
like for me, when I was watching it, I kept thinking about how he kept putting down his guitar and picking up the guitar case full of weapons.
Mm.
And because at the beginning of the movie, he just wants to be a mariachi. And he's very innocent in that desire. He wants to be a mariachi like his father, like his ancestors. He wants to play music. He talks about how, guitarists used to be worshipped back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just after the scene where he goes and he tries to get a job at a bar. And the guy's like,
okay,
why would I have one mariachi when I've got a whole band? And he signals to this other guy who comes out with like a digital piano with these like pre-recorded, quote unquote Mexican beats. And like, he's like, yeah, I got a whole band here. Why would I need one
yeah, yeah,
mariachi?
yeah. That was
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah. He has the sound
parts of it.
effects on the piano, and he literally
Yes.
does. That's all he does when he plays the piano is just hit the yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I interpreted it for myself personally, thinking about the kind of pure desire to create art, to be a musician, to be a writer, and how it's hard. It's hard to do that. Like maybe this is playing into the nostalgia of our generation, but I feel like in our generation, when we were kids, we were told to follow our dreams, um,
Mm-hmm.
to do what we wanted to do, to be whatever we wanted to be. And then 9/11 happened, and 2008, and a lot of other things. And I'm sure every generation goes through this in some form or another. But there's a line in a 21 Pilots song, "Stressed Out." He says, we used to play pretend, call each other different names, used to ride a rocket ship and fly it far away. We used to play pretend, but now they're laughing in our face, saying, "Wake up, you need to make money." And
Mm.
it's the whole song is really just about growing up, and how now as adults the economy is, I'm not an economist, but it's hard now. Like it's hard to make money, it's hard to make a career, and I'm sure that's true for every generation more or less. But I was thinking about how this mariachi has this very pure desire to make his living practicing his art, but
Mm-hmm.
the world forces him to pick up this case of weapons and
Mm.
abandon his art to survive.
So there's a point in this movie where there's a mistake made. Both guitar cases are next to each other of the actual murderer of people, like the cartel leader who's got the guitar case full of weapons, and this mariachi who has a guitar case full of a guitar, and they accidentally switch guitars, and it leads to this kind of funny situation. And the mariachi kills a few more people, and the cartel boss is saved because he has an actual guitar. And
Mm,
what I'm hearing you say, Hunter, is that instead of seeing that as a merely kind of like funny anecdote,
mm,
story, kind of within the story, that there is actually a deeper meaning that is being conveyed, about the loss of like what has made this mariachi himself, like the loss of his joy, the loss of his livelihood, and ultimately that's how the movie ends.
yeah. He gets shot in the hand, in his guitar hand, his left hand, and he kind of rides off with a dog. I mean, at least he has a dog, but he rides off with a dog and a motorcycle and the guns. I think maybe he takes the guitar too, but he's not really
I think
sure
it's a
if he
guitar
can play
case
or
of
not.
money. It's a
Oh,
guitar
right,
case with the
yeah,
guns. I think there's only one guitar case. I think it's the one with the guns in it.
yeah. And I don't know if that was what Robert Rodriguez was thinking, but I think there's definitely a case to be made um, for this movie. Uh, and I don't know. We talk about movies and stuff nowadays as if the author or the director knows everything that they're trying to convey when they write this story. But I am highly skeptical of that, of any author who claims that they know exactly what they're doing when they, make their art. And so this is it was my personal reaction to the movie and how it shaped me.
Yeah. They did the big bad villain cartel leader in this movie is, I think, did a pretty good job. I think they did a pretty good job with him. He's
Yeah.
absurd. And yeah, he plays a bad guy good enough. Like he's like kind of a two-dimensional bad guy that they try to add a three-dimensional thing with the love interest, and that's what leads to her death and the other cartel leader's death and the guy being shot and the mariachi being shot in the hand. And like, I don't think this movie is about being watched for, like, if you're trying to pick this movie apart, you could pick out a lot of things. But I think they did a good job of casting the characters. I think every character, like every actor, did a good enough job at what they were doing. And my favorite way in which they made the big bad guy like evil is that he lit matches by striking them on the face of his henchmen. Like in two cases with the same guy, like he strikes a match against his like the back, like his neck and his chin or something like that, and he lights it. And it is so funny and so like out of left field. And then at the end, when the big bad guy is dead, his henchmen come, who is going to become the new cartel boss, kind of is the vibe, strikes a match off the dead bad guy's neck and lights his own cigarette. It's like, okay, that's it. They've passed on the med. Like every character in this movie has like weird quirks. Like the other cartel leader, the guy with the case full of guns, not guitars. His thing when he enters a bar is to drink a specific beer out of the bottle.
Un botella.
Yeah, the first two bartenders who start pouring it into a glass, and he's like, in the bottle. And so they both just like drink the glass, and then they hand him a new bottle. And and then there's like this weird part, like, is he supposed to also be falling in love with the love interest? Who like I wish like was more of an independent character than she actually is, because she's kind of a cool character, and like she has her own. She owns the bar, but then she said like the bar was given to her, and all these other things were given to her because the guy's trying to make him trying to buy her love. And like she's like a somewhat independent character. Like she like hands him the actual bottle of beer, and like he gives like he shows her the eyes, and like a surprise. And like I don't know, he's like everything. There's just these like little weird quirks, which it almost reminds me. James Bond. Like it's a very specific thing in James Bond is that the big bad and usually and or one of the other like main henchmen always has some very strange like quirk about them. Like there's Jaws.
Mm.
There's Odd Job with the hat. There's in the new one,
Mm-hmm.
Rami Malek has like part of his hat, part of his face has been burned. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's every character, like one of the guys, the other like main henchman, like doesn't have an eye or has like a fake eye. I feel like they've kind of like worked hard to give every character in this movie a thing. And like even the dog. The dog is like they keep zooming in on the dog's face, who's just completely useless guard dog.
Yeah.
What else in your mind do we need to talk about in this movie? Or what else has like this movie meant to you? Right, we're about the stories and storytellers that shape us.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you chose this partially because of the one I chose. Like, what else about this has shaped you, if anything?
I think it goes back to persevering in the struggle to create, which is something that's personal to me because I am trying to be a writer, a musician, and
You are a writer and musician. Let's just
yes,
make this clear.
not a
You are an
profitable one.
author and a musician. Yes, that's
Yes,
a different statement.
yes, and we tend to measure success in our culture by money. Someone is a successful author if the book sells a lot. A movie is successful if it makes a lot of money, and this movie actually did. It was like one of the first movies to make like $1 million on such a low
Really?
budget in the box office. Yeah, um, just is really cool. But like when I first started writing, we get this sort of idea that, if you really write something good, then you're going to be a bestseller. And that's just not what happens. Some of the things, some of the books that I love are not popular. And um, I think, like, when it comes down to it, no one in the town appreciates the mariachi for his music, really.
Outside of one scene.
Yeah. One scene, the people at the bar and Domino who loves the mariachi. But is he a mariachi because of the fame that it can bring him, or is he a mariachi because he loves the music? And I think that's what I think about when I think about this movie is am I writing because I want to be a bestseller and be a famous author? And I mean, it'd be nice, but that's not really why I'm writing.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I love the words and the story, and just trying to persevere in that because it's hard. Writing is hard, especially when you don't. And creating anything is hard, really.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you don't really get any feedback, um, and it's just kind of silence. But you could take up this case of weapons and do whatever is popular and have more success, maybe. But I don't know.
I feel like you're sharing a piece of what makes a movie a Hunter movie is the ability to talk about it and real deep, and then just kind of fade off into silence and have the movie like speak for itself under
Yeah,
this new like valence.
Mm-hmm.
this new light. Okay, wow. So that's going to be very different from what I say when I when I talk about our next movie. Are you okay if I jump right into it?
Go for it.
All right. So whereas I know that this was the first time I'd ever watched El Mariachi, I know you have seen History of Future Folk before.
Yeah.
History of Future Folk is a mockumentary, almost like it's not shot like a documentary, but it's about the history of a folk band called Future Folk. That was found. I'm just finding this information. Founded as the live act in 2004 by Nils Dioler and Jay Clates, who play General Trias and the Mighty Kevin. Yes, the Mighty Kevin is all capitalized. That is his character name. The premise is this guy comes, General Trias, from the planet of Hondo, which is about to be hit by a comet and destroyed, like in the next 50 years, 20 years. He comes to Earth to release a virus that would kill all the inhabitants so that his people can come to Earth and populate it. And right when he's about to release this virus, he walks into a Home Depot or Lowe's type vibe store, big box store, and hears music for the first time in his life. And can't destroy Earth because of music. And so some amount of years later, he's married, he's got a kid, he's still trying to figure out how to stop this comet from destroying his home planet, but he can't kill the people of Earth.
Some planet is Hondo.
Hondo, yep. So Hondo is both the name of a planet and a greeting in this movie. The Hondonians send another guy, the Mighty Kevin, to kill him. It doesn't work because the Mighty Kevin also hears music. And so then they send, kind of like in Thor, a big bad metal creature, or not metal creature, big bad creature to kill them. Doesn't work out. And they save both Hondo and the Earth. With a lot of great music in between.
Yeah.
That's kind of the general premise of it. Any major pieces I missed before I share why I brought this to us?
I don't think so. I did want to share that the scene where General Trias shares music with the Mighty Kevin is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie because the Mighty Kevin tries to kill him and fails. General Trias karate chops him and then ties him up. And they wear these suits, these like red suits that are
imagine
just
a bucket upside down in your head and then a red suit.
And I love how he says in one of his performances, he's like, we don't have buckets on Hondo, so I didn't realize, that my helmet looks like a bucket. But the scene, the Mighty Kevin is tied up in a chair, and he thinks that General Trias is going to torture him or something. And he's like, I'm not going to talk, whatever you do. And General Trias starts putting on finger picks for playing the banjo. And the Mighty Kevin sees them and he's like, oh no, I'll tell you whatever you want. And General Trias is very serious and he just picks up his banjo. He's like, what is that? What are you going to do with that? And then he just starts playing a classical piece. He plays like Mario. He plays a lot of famous musical pieces on the banjo. Yeah, on the banjo too. And the Mighty Kevin just starts like he like it despite the like low budget, the Mighty Kevin is not a professional actor. Despite all of that, it is one of the best scenes I have seen in a movie about experiencing music because you're just seeing this alien experiencing music for the first time, which I think is something that, we tend to take music for granted. Like the scene when he's in the department store, he's like rocking out to all the music and stuff.
Yeah.
People are just looking at him really weirdly. Because he has the bucket suit and it's a department store music that we've heard a million times, but they've never heard it before. And the Mighty Kevin just like goes totally nuts, and like it just like blows his mind, and he like escapes and runs away and like finds a guitar.
And learns how to play it in 26 hours.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So before we dive further into it, I want to share why my first interactions with this movie and why I shared it. I just want to read the directors are John Mitchell and Jeremy Kip Walker.
Okay.
John Mitchell is also the writer, just to give credit where credit's due. I don't remember when I first interacted with this movie. It was somewhere, it came out in 2013, May 31st, 2013. So I think the first time I watched it was in college. And
did we watch it together?
I think we might have. So I'm trying to remember if you watched it for the first time, if we watched it together for the first time, or if I watched it and then I was like, Hunter, we need to watch this. I don't know
that when we watched it together, that was the first time that I'd ever seen it.
Yeah. So this is a movie that I have recommended to so many people because it looks like it's shot for under $10,000. I haven't been able to see how much money it's actually shot for. It made around $15,000 in the box office. It was released in like 2 theaters. And it's a really good movie. Like it is a comedy. It is a folk music movie. Like, and I think it tells like a cohesive narrative, and creates a really interesting like mesh of Hondo and the Earth. And like there's like relationships that are built up in this movie. Like there's work done. Like and the music is so good. It's a type of music that just kind of like gets you moving. And I have yet to meet somebody who I have yet to recommend this movie to somebody and have them say afterwards, I didn't like it. I don't think it's a type of movie you can dislike. And when I think of, I've seen a lot of B movies, most of which I do not remember at all. Like I have no memory of them.
Hallmark movies?
No, I remember all the Hallmark movies. I love those. That's not a problem I have. I have the opposite problem with Hallmark movies. But this movie is like something that like I hadn't seen it in 4 or 5 years, maybe. When I started rewatching it for this episode, and I love it just as much. It's on Netflix. I'm so glad it's on Netflix. It's something that I think it was off Netflix for a while and it came back onto it. I think about this movie way more often than I should, given that it's just a comedy movie. I don't know. It's that's not nearly as deep as what you shared, but it to me, when I watch movies, like especially in the last 2 years, but going back for a while, like my approach to movies is watch something that'll make you feel good and laugh, because I already do enough, like, there's already enough pain in the world around that I kind of see it as a way to just enjoy something. And this movie is created for that. And it gets back to like, it feels like certain aspects of it feel like original Star Trek. Like the laser guns, like they're a little bit nicer maybe
Yeah,
than the laser guns in Star Trek, but like it's the same. It's the
yeah.
same like feel. Like it feels like a
Should we
low
set these to
budget.
stun?
Yeah, yeah. It feels like a low budget sci-fi movie that has all of a sudden has really good music.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, if it was just a fun movie, right? Like just a fun sci-fi movie, I don't think it would be. At least I wouldn't appreciate it as much
Yeah.
because it's not just a fun sci-fi movie. It's about music
Yes.
and about the love of music.
And family and like love of
Right.
each other. Like there's a whole, and it's not even a side plot. Like a large part of this movie, maybe it's side, I don't know. A large part of this movie is um, General Trias's relationship with his wife and daughter, who
Hmm.
don't know that Hondo is real,
Yeah.
and of the mighty Kevin's relationship with, and I do not remember the name of this other character, which is a very interesting relationship with this officer who handcuffs him, and Carmen,
Hmm.
what's her name? Uh, it's
I
that's a whole thing.
I thought it was funny. I don't think I noticed this the first time I watched it because I didn't know much Spanish. I still don't know much, but I knew enough to comprehend that he said that I learned Spanish in 5 minutes for you. That's part
Yeah.
of
Oh
his,
my God.
because he stuns her, uh, and she like is paralyzed and she can't move, and so he goes in and he sings her this love song about how much he loves her. He calls her Mi Luna, my moon, and he's talking about how much he loves her, and he's like, I learned Spanish in 5 minutes. But
That's a
it's
whole piece of this movie that's just very interesting, and like it definitely leans
yeah,
into the idea like we're coming from a different world. There are different things that are okay. Uh,
yeah. It's the women do not have as much agency as you'd want them to, um, which I think is something about both of these movies that
yeah, definitely. And the primary relationship in this movie is between the two male characters, who are also the future folk. Like they are
Mhm.
actually two singers who are in a band together called Future Folk, which has released two
Right.
albums and a couple singles. Um,
Mhm.
and it's about how they came to be. And
Yeah.
it starts with General Trias in this dive bar, and there's like 10 people there. And by the end, they're like selling out. Like the whole place is full
Hmm.
with standing room only. And everybody's wearing buckets on their
Yeah.
heads. I think you're right. There is an aspect that this movie is more than just makes me feel good, because there are a lot of
Right.
movies that make me feel good that I don't watch and rewatch. Um, this is probably in my top 10 movies as far as the number of times I've seen them. Um, I have no idea how many times I've seen this. Probably only half a dozen or so, which is probably a lot given, especially now, given how many movies exist and how
Mm.
easy it is to just watch a new thing instead of rewatching a thing.
Right.
Um, I feel like many ways the best way to describe this movie, or really for somebody to get it, if you're not going to watch the movie, like just look up look up Future Folk, the band on Spotify, and their top song, I think, is called Space Worms, which
Hmm.
they straight up sing in this movie.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a what? I grew up on my planet farming space
And space
worms.
worms.
Like, and like there's interesting like ideas of like science and how they're going to blow up this comet to save everybody. Um, I this is I can't talk about this without smiling. For me, this movie is kind of like bluegrass. I don't
Yeah.
listen to bluegrass music all the time, but every single time I listen to it, without fail, I smile and tap my feet,
Mm.
and I want to listen to more of it. Um,
Yeah.
and part of it's because of how simple, like, the idea of it is. Part of it's because of how captivating the singing songwriting, like, instrumental, aspects are, and some of it is
Mm.
I love a good sci-fi movie,
Yeah.
and this is, I think, a good enough sci-fi movie. It's not trying to be great. It I think both movies know what they are, and they lean into
They
that.
know what
Like,
their budget is. But it's amazing because they make it work, you know? Like, I think that's what impresses me the most, with both of them. And like the big bad guy who comes to the planet, to Earth to kill General Trias, or not kill him, but at least the virus. It is just a guy in a suit. Like, and you can very clearly tell that it's a guy in a suit. Like, there's not much post production in this movie,
mhm,
but it doesn't really matter. Like, it works. The plot
mhm.
works. The the guys do a good enough job acting that it works, and I think the music is really what sells it. Which,
Oh yeah,
for me, um,
the music's so good that the movie could be terrible and it would hold it up, but the movie's not terrible.
hmm, yeah,
Like, it's A quality music in a B movie,
right.
which is, helps. So honestly, I'm thinking about the similarities between this and Thor, and like, Thor was of course banished, but he still, was sent to Earth, and like, I don't know, there's some similarities, and
Yeah,
I would watch this movie over Thor most days of the week.
I would.
Maybe not Thor Ragnarok, but then the first two Thors definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right. There was one. There were two before Ragnarok, weren't there?
Thor Dark World. It's it's in the dark era of it's one of those ones that Endgame actually made Thor Dark World a better movie. Uh, I feel like we're coming to a pretty good ending on this episode. I would highly encourage people to watch History of Future Folk. It's like 85 minutes. It's not a long movie. It is a fun
Yeah.
movie. It's also, I don't know, it's probably rated PG-13, but it's not.
Yeah, there's a little bit of language.
Okay.
The B word is in there, and
Okay.
yeah,
That's good. I forgot that.
yeah,
It's
he's
like,
like,
it's not an inappropriate movie.
yeah,
Obviously,
yeah,
do what you need to, whatever. But let me just say, this movie on Rotten Tomatoes has a 93% fresh,
all right,
um, which is, I think that's pretty impressive. It's one of those, it's one of those movies again that'll just make you feel good, and they'll get your feet moving.
and
I don't know if it'll make you ask deep questions.
it makes
Uh,
me ask deep questions, but I don't know. I don't know. I Because I think it gets at the magic of music.
mm,
Music literally saves planet Earth.
that is
Is the
true
plot of the movie,
by itself, and like, they bring up the
right?
question of, like, hey, like, these people aren't great. Like, was like,
Yeah,
there's a fight in a jail at one point, and like,
yeah,
the mighty Kevin is trying to decide, like, it almost kills the entire planet because
yeah.
somebody was about to, like, beat him up, and
Hmm.
for like no real reason outside of him being awkward and not knowing the cultural ways to interact with people. Um,
Right. Being an alien.
yeah, and they're human aliens. Like, they this would work well in Star Trek. Um,
Yeah.
Honestly, it'd probably make a cool Star Trek episode if there was like a Star Trek musical episode.
Uh, I'm I don't know. Uh, I know the original Star Trek quite well. There is kind of like a very, I mean, the whole thing is theatrical, but there is a very theatrical one where they actually sort of put on a play. Um,
Hmm.
I believe it might not be Mud's Women, but it's one of the Mud ones. They put on a play to kind of blow the fuses of the androids that are keeping them captive. One of my favorite episodes of the
Okay.
original Star Trek. But there's probably a Star Trek musical out there.
Oh, I'm sure there's probably many a fan fiction musical too.
Yeah.
Hunter, you watched this movie for the second time. Did you
Hmm.
enjoy it as much this time as you did the last time? Does it?
I
What are your
did, yeah.
thoughts?
I I did enjoy it. I'm glad I rewatched it because I was wondering if I was going to rewatch both of these movies because I'd seen them. I don't know. Um, I was wondering if I could remember enough, but I'm glad I rewatched it. Especially like if you're not sure about it, just watch the opening scene because I think
Hmm.
the opening scene of just this guy dancing in a Home Depot uh, is amazing. It's just it's worth it. It's not going to waste your time.
Hmm.
Like a lot of movies these days waste your time, but this one doesn't really, in my opinion.
Yeah. And if you don't like music, you probably won't like this movie. Um,
But if you don't like music, I was going to say you have to be an alien not to like music, but it doesn't really. I guess there's probably aliens out there that don't like music.
that doesn't really fit into the vibe of this movie, though. It's kind of
Yeah,
counter there. Yeah. Drinks beer.
yeah.
Hunter, I feel like every time we've had these conversations so far, we hit a point where I kind of want the conversation to go on further and dive deeper, but I think we kind of hit a good ending. One of the things I just want to say to you is I appreciate how you help me see the deeper side of things.
Mm,
Oftentimes, I think some of it's been COVID driven, have kind of stop at more of a surface level or an intermediate level
mhm.
of diving into these stories that and storytellers that shape us. And you do a really good job of kind of drawing out more of like, no, this movie isn't just about the enjoyable aspect of sci-fi and folk music. It's about the impact of music on somebody's life and
Mm,
on our world. Or this movie isn't just about a guy who's got a guitar case full of guns that he uses to kill people. It's about the the loss and transition of what you love for what the world forces you to become.
mm,
And that is a much, I think, a much fuller way of understanding these movies and why they could impact us the way they do. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for helping pull out some of the deeper aspects of these B movies.
You're welcome. Thanks for helping me to enjoy movies and art. Uh, I think I naturally have a pretty critical lens. Unless it has like a strong personal recommendation from a friend, I'm usually when I watch a movie, my natural disposition is pretty critical.
Mm,
Um, but you have a different approach. You help me kind of relax a little bit, and yeah, I think you take the side of the movie. You kind of root for the director or the author, whoever it is, and I appreciate that. I would be lost in my own kind of deep critical world.
I appreciate that we're able to help each other kind of move along and see things in a different light, especially when we both like enjoy the things. And I'd raise a glass to both of these movies.
Oh yeah,
yeah, me too. I appreciate you sharing El Mariachi. I wouldn't have seen it otherwise, and it's very very rare that I watch a movie that's fully dubbed. But it's,
oh, did you watch it with subtitles or?
No, the version I bought, I rented, like it was 100% dubbed. So,
oh wow!
Outside of like the song, like the songs, like it was, and so I'm sure that changed the feel of the movie.
Oh yeah, well, hashtag subs not dubs.
Yeah, I just bought one of it. I bought what I could for $3.99 from Google, and that's what it gave me.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, I got to be honest. I'm a little bit interested to see if this is an episode that people are interested in, because it's the first episode we've talked about that doesn't have the acclaim of any known product or characters.
I don't know. I mean, we're not really. I don't know how to gauge interest. I feel like we don't really have enough of a following to really track that kind of thing. But it's also the first movies that we've done. We just stuck to books.
That's true, and it's the start of. We're about the stories and storytellers that shape us, and I've shared that a few times already this episode, and so you're going to start seeing in the coming weeks and different types of stories and storytelling. I'm talking about everything from albums and to adaptations of things, to maybe a couple more authors. But like we're going to be maybe even talking about games. And some things will connect well with people, some things won't. We are both the type of people that enjoy a lot of different types of art. And I don't know what conversations we have will be the most interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm excited.
It's also one of the first episodes. It's not an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure
we're trying to keep a reasonable length, figuring it out.
It's true. Well, till next time, I hope you have many a thing to raise a glass to over the next week, Hunter, and very few to pour one out to, and especially with that dishwasher situation.
Thank you. I think it's fixed. I can raise a glass to that.
Hey, nice. I hope the saga doesn't continue. Well, enjoy, and make sure to check out the Future Folk.
And El Mariachi.